You know what? I am accused of being too negative. Way too negative. Today is about the positive, why the Magic's 2 stars are better than you think today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is August 5th. It will be August 6th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Ike. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipR_OMD. I'm a credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, it's time to be positive. We've talked about all the ways the team needs to be better. So let's talk about why the team is so good right now. Why Paolo Banchero deserves your attention, why Franz Wagner is already pretty great, and we'll actually talk about some actual basketball being played. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic an even bigger part of your day by being one of our Orlando Magic dailies. Make it part of your daily routine. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm not here to be negative. I'm just not a negative person. People came into my timeline, came into my mentions. They told me about a certain thing that's been said by a good friend of mine over at Locked On Pistons. And I'm not here to make that argument. Like, Cade Cunningham, go listen to Kuka Heel, our good friend at Locked On Pistons. He made the big argument, upset over the NBA.com player rankings that had Paolo Banchero ranked as the, let me make sure I have this right, the 4th best player in the Eastern Conference, and Cade Cunningham as the 5th. I agree with those rankings. I think Paolo is a better player than Cade, but that's not to say Cade is not a very good player. I am not here to knock someone down, to lift my guy up. In fact, I would argue Paolo Banchero and Cade, I prefer tiering players rather than ranking them just because it's like you're picking nits. I think Paolo's a really good player, and I think he's a better passer than people give him credit for. I think he's a more efficient scorer than people give him credit for. He has just not been put in a position or a scenario to take full advantage of his talents in the way that Cade Cunningham was last year. The big argument, the big thesis of, for me, this entire offseason is simply that the Orlando Magic are a lot better than people think. And yes, everyone thinks the Orlando Magic are going to be the 3rd seed in the East next year, or the 3rd or 4th seed in the East next year. And I want to get, I throw little pot shots at Detroit. We got a friendly rivalry going on. I'm looking forward to the NBA Cup game in November. We have our fun here. And Kuz's a great guy. Locked On Pistons is a great show. Go listen to them, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm not here to knock anybody down. Cade is very, very good. I agree with NBA.com and Sean Powell of NBA.com's rankings that has Paolo as the 4th best player in the Eastern Conference, behind Giannis, behind Jalen Brunson, behind Donovan Mitchell. I'm not complaining about that. I filled out my Locked On podcast NBA 100 list. I had Paolo, I think, 14th or 15th in the league, right above Cade. I had Cade 15 or 16. I don't remember where I put him in relation to the rest of the East, but I'm pretty happy with this. I'm pretty satisfied with this. But let me just start here. And make this side of the argument. Because again, I'm not going to knock anyone down. I'm not putting down Cade to pump up Paolo. What I want to say is that I still think nationally, and this has kind of been the discussion all summer, and look, we're going to learn a lot this year. But I think generally Paolo Banchero is underestimated and underappreciated and underrecognized in the ecosystem of the NBA. It goes to national TV appearances. Paolo has had, 6 total? The Magic have had 7 total, 8 total in his 3 years in the NBA so far, his 4 years in the NBA so far, 9 total in his 4 years in the NBA so far. No, 8 total. For a guy who was the number 1 pick in the draft, a guy who has the scoring skills and has been part of a playoff team for the last 2 seasons. And it has been 3 seasons. This is year 4 coming up. In 3 seasons, Paolo Banchero has done everything you expect a young star to do. Leading a team, facing the pressure of being the lead guy, and seems to be treated like he's, let's throw some guy under the bus, treated like he's a Julius Randle level player. And look, again, Julius Randle, very good player, but very limited. I would say this, and again, no disrespect to Julius Randle or our friends at Locked On Wolves. Julius Randle is the floor of what Paolo Banchero has accomplished so far in his career. Paolo Banchero has shown us these last 2 seasons that, yes, he can lead a team into the playoffs. He can step up. As Zach Lowe said on the Zach Lowe show about a week ago now, Paolo Banchero shows up in the playoffs. He took the words out of my mouth saying, I don't know what everyone is watching. This guy is awesome. Facing double teams, no shooting, no spacing. He just puts in points and delivers for his team. And you can nitpick all these advanced stats. Sam Vecini of the Game Theory podcast said it really well, that the advanced stats don't know what to do with heavy usage stars who have to carry an unordinary load for their teams. They don't know what to do with players like Paolo Banchero. The fact of the matter is, Paolo Banchero's days of being overlooked are done. I'm tired of watching and listening to people who, and I get tagged in these. Please don't tag me in these. I don't care about these debates, but I get wrapped into these conversations of start, bench, cut of 3 players, all very, very good. But 2 of them, or at least one of them, Paolo is so clearly better than, and there are people arguing, cut Paolo. And I just sit there and say, y'all aren't watching. You're just jumping in. You're just looking at stats. You're not watching. Those arguments that Paolo Banchero is inefficient, I'm sorry. He is efficient. After the All-Star break, taking out the time that he was injured, and yes, those 5 games he played at the start of the year, after the All-Star break last year, he averaged 29 points per game on 47.3% shooting, 33.3% from three-point line, 78.3% from the foul line. His 58.3 true shooting percentage was 7th among all rotation players with a usage rate of 30% or higher after the All-Star break. Let's just say this plainly, Paolo Banchero has already arrived. This isn't if he gets this stuff figured out. He's figured this stuff out. And on top of that, he averaged 29 points per game against the Boston Celtics. I've said this a million times. That playoff series against Boston felt like the Magic were banging their head against a wall. And they were never going to break down that wall with just Paolo and Franz, but they put some dents in it. They put some dents into that hole, into that strong defense that Boston has. If anything, the Magic, watching Paolo and Franz thrive in that playoff series offensively and have zero help, probably push them to be more aggressive than they were planning to be. And so, yes, this is a big season for Paolo because now the Magic have the attention. The doors are wide open for them to compete in the Eastern Conference. And again, yeah, they'll be competing with Detroit. I am really looking forward to that NBA Cup game against the Pistons. Please, NBA schedule makers, make that Pistons game last because that's going to determine who wins the group. Put it at the end of the group, please. And it's not 1 versus 2. It's 2 versus 3 or 2 versus 3. Pot 2 versus pot 3. Put that game at the end so that you could put it on Amazon, put it on NBC, put it on wherever it's going on, and make that game feel as meaningful as it's going to mean in March and April when these 2 teams might be facing off in the second round. I'm not going to put it past them to be the 2 and the 3 seed, honestly. These are 2 really good teams. But Paolo Banchero is done working in anonymity. The Magic went out and got him more shooting, more playmaking, more creation around him to help make his job easier, to give him the space he needs to put all those doubters to rest. Because again, frankly, he's already done that. I've already moved on to my evaluation of Paolo to say, Now it's just about him learning when to pick his spots and learning when to attack and when not. Because he's already figured out how to beat double teams. He's already figured out how to be pretty efficient against these double and triple teams that he sees. Now he's going to see a whole lot less of them. Paolo Banchero deserves your attention. And whether he's better than Cade or not, again, I think he is. I think it is a debate. I don't think it's far. They're in the same tier of players in the NBA. These are both really good players. Whether or not he's better than Cade, as my friend Kuka Heel of Locked On Pistons argued, he's already arrived to this stage. And now it's about giving this player, and frankly Cade, the attention they deserve as two of the best young players in this league. As I joked, I don't care who's better between Paolo and Cade. At the end of the day, I think the Magic are going to be a better team. I think the Pistons are a very good team, but I think the Magic will be a better team. That's ultimately how we're going to judge these players, how much better their teams are and how much better these players make their teammates, who gets the most playoff success. The Magic and the Pistons are going to be battling each other for the next 3, 4, 5 years. They are going to be rivals, and I'm very happy the Pistons are rivals again. I love battling the Pistons. But I'm going to say it this way. Who cares who's better? Who's going to stop them when they're both on the 2028 U.S. Olympic team? So let's talk then about Franz Wagner, because all we seem to be talking about with Franz this summer is how much better he needs to shoot. I just want to say, Franz, you're already great. You're already great, dude. Let's talk about Franz Wagner coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch or opening tip. And they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Right now, there's not a lot of sports going on in Orlando. We got Orlando City. Obviously, they'll play a game Wednesday in the Leagues Cup. Inter Miami, probably without Lionel Messi coming to town on Sunday. If you're looking, actually, that's the personal touch I want to put in this ad. If you were looking to buy tickets to go see Orlando City versus Inter Miami, you probably saw how expensive those tickets were because Lionel Messi is on Inter Miami. Well, guess what? Lionel Messi's hurt. Lionel Messi may not play. And the moment he is announced as out for that game on Sunday, I can guarantee all those tickets that are priced at $100, $120 are going to drop like a rock to $20, 30, 25, somewhere much lower. They're going to drop like a rock. And that's your best bet to go see Orlando City as they try to rally to make the playoffs and get home field advantage in the playoffs. Game Time is the best place to go to buy tickets at the last moment. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All we've talked about when it comes to Franz Wagner, whenever I put Franz Wagner in the thumbnail, and Paolo's going to be in the thumbnail on this episode, so Franz will not be the thumbnail, but whenever I make Franz a thumbnail on these podcasts, it always seems like I'm talking about his shooting. And even now, I'm leading with it. I can't avoid it. Shooting is the essential thing to unlock Franz Wagner. The essential thing that could take him from merely a good player to a very good player. Certainly a big part of his all-star candidacy and really a big part of the Magic going from where they're at now, playing kind of solid playoff team, to potential Eastern Conference contender. It's all predicated on Franz Wagner taking a major step up, taking a leap in a significant way. There's no avoiding his shooting issues. Everyone acknowledges that this is the key to unlocking so much of his game. But guess what? Even if Franz Wagner does not drastically improve his shooting, Like, yeah, be above 30%, please. But even if Franz settles in at 33%, 34% would be a miracle at this point, 32%. Even if he settles in the low 30s, Franz Wagner is already a really good player. Last season, despite his flaws, despite anything he might have done or might have struggled with, he really emerged. He really had a breakout season and emerged as not just a future all-star, but an all-star today. If he doesn't injure his oblique, he is probably an all-star last year. All in all, Wagner averaged 24.2 points per game to go with 5.7 rebounds per game and 4.3 assists per game. All career highs. More than that, Wagner, who was criticized throughout much of his early career, including by myself, for kind of slinking into the background, to kind of being comfortable as a secondary player, not really realizing how good he was, upped his game with Paolo Banchero out. With Banchero out in November and December, Wagner averaged 26.1 points per game and shot a more respectable 30.5% from three. Wagner's three-point shooting struggles really didn't happen until after the oblique injury, when we all began to notice that little hitch in his shot, and he shot, well below from three, including in the playoff series. After really up and down playoff series against the Cleveland Cavaliers, which included that game 7, which we obsessed over all last summer, Franz averaged 25.8 points per game. He never scored fewer than 23 points in any of those games. And in fact, it was Franz Wagner who hit the two critical shots that won the Magic game 3. In so many ways, last season was a statement season for Franz Wagner. It was a clear statement of intent that I am a star too. Remember back in Philadelphia, the game before he tore his oblique, Jamal Mosley was shouting down the hallways while Franz was talking to the media, all-star him, all-star him. Everyone's been trying to pump confidence into this dude, and now he knows how good he can be. So yes, three-point shooting is going to help him out a ton. Let's not pretend otherwise. The three-point shooting is less about what Franz needs and more about what's going to help his team the most. But Franz Wagner is already very, very good. He is already putting up star numbers. And, I don't like the Paolo versus Franz narrative that some people like to create, especially those who want to knock down Paolo. Despite the poor three-point shooting, Franz still measures so well in every advanced metric. Now, again, some of that has to do, he's playing more against bench players. He was the first one out of the lineups. He kind of anchors those bench units. He'll probably do the same next year. But Franz is already really, really, really good. And so, yes, we are expecting him to improve as a three-point shooter. And we'll get a good look at that in EuroBasket. We're gonna get to see Franz in 2 games this weekend. They'll play Slovenia on Friday and Sunday. Not sure if Franz will play both games. I would, maybe he may play only one. There's a lot of exhibition games coming up. We're gonna get a very good look at Franz Wagner over the next month, and we're gonna know what to expect from him when the season begins. Whether that three-point shot is a lot smoother, a lot cleaner, a lot more effective. Because we know what he's going to do otherwise. The three-point shot is the only mystery when it comes to Franz Wagner. Because everything else checks out. And last year, everything checked out in his favor. Everything was on point for him last year. And so certainly the idea, certainly the thought, certainly the hope is that Franz is ready to take that step. Is that Franz did add this element to his game. Because that's the only missing piece to a guy who is a clear all-star, a clear max-level player, a clear guy that the Magic can build their team around. We'll get to all-star stuff later in the summer. There's been the Athletic did a fun episode where they tried to portray first-time all-stars will be. Franz Wagner was a unanimous number 1 pick among the guys that they had on that show. They said, yeah, he's absolutely going to be an all-star this year. And that's before we talk about whether he improves his shooting. If the Magic have the record that they have, Franz will be an all-star alongside Paolo Banchero. Whether Desmond Bane is an all-star too, that'll be another question. I don't know what to expect from Desmond Bane, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if he will put up all-star level numbers. That may more depend on whether the Magic are like second, third in the East and like really playing really, really well. That's probably the basis of Desmond Bane's candidacy. But Paolo and Franz, if they do what they did last year, they're going to be all-stars this season. So let's move on then, because we got basketball. We got actual basketball to talk about. I didn't see any of it, or very much of it. They posted some highlights. Let's talk about Goga Bitadze and Georgia and their chances of advancing out of the group stage in EuroBasket. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Open Phone lets you manage business calls and texts from a single app. Their shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat, and their AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer. Open Phone is offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Open Phone. openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Locked On NBA. There's 2 N's in there. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. We are going to get actual basketball. Actually, we already have actual basketball. Most of the teams have begun their training camps ahead of EuroBasket. Slovenia reported, I believe today, or at least Luka Doncic reported to Slovenia camp. Franz Wagner and Tristan da Silva have been with Germany since last week. We talked a little bit about them last week. Goga Bitadze and Georgia have been together for about a week and a half now, too. I believe it's been 10 days since they started their camp. And we got our first little bit of actual basketball being played in preparation for EuroBasket. Now, EuroBasket does not tip off until later this month. August 27th, I believe, is the first day of games. We'll see Germany face Montenegro in the opening game, or in the opening game that we care about. So we'll get to see Franz Wagner versus Nikola Vucevic to open that in, I believe they're playing in Finland. But Georgia, also in the tournament, also of interest to us, played their first exhibition game on Monday. They lost by 10 to Israel. It was a closed-door scrimmage. So, just there's the Georgia Basketball Federation posted some highlights on their Instagram account. Obviously, the result is not the most important thing. Guys are not playing their full minutes. They're just kind of getting their legs under them. And Israel's actually a pretty good team in this tournament. Georgia's going to have a fight to get out of group play. We'll get to them in just a minute. Goga Bitadze came off the bench once again, and I would expect him to come off the bench in this tournament. Shamir Dini is still kicking it. Georgia likes him. So we'll get to see Bitadze in sort of the role that we normally see him in with the Magic. He, at least by the box score, looked like Goga Bitadze. Played about 15 minutes, scored 10 points, grabbed 8 rebounds, added an assist. The box score that I saw, and it was just what was posted on the Georgia national team website, because some of these websites are not particularly clean. Even Israel's website wasn't particularly great. And I expect more from them because they are they're a little bit more of a basketball country. I don't have a full box score, and I didn't watch the game, so I can't tell you specifically, but that's a typical Goga Bitadze stat line. 10 points, 8 rebounds in 15 minutes. Like, that's the kind of stat stuffing that we normally see and what we kind of expect from Bitadze when he plays. And so that is a good sign, especially considering Bitadze struggled so much to end last season. Again, we shared those stats last week, I believe. After his concussion in late January, Bitadze averaged about 4 points per game, really struggled, kind of fell out of the rotation, even with Mo Wagner out of the lineup. So it's good to see Goga playing at that level again. And so, again, there are more exhibition games coming. They play Estonia, I believe. Let me check when they play Estonia. I actually have this written down. They'll play Estonia on Thursday. They'll play Estonia on Thursday. That's Georgia's next game. And then we'll get Germany. We'll get Germany on Friday against Slovenia, and then Germany again And then Georgia plays Lithuania on Sunday and Slovenia again on Sunday as well. So we're going to have complete coverage, complete recap of the 2 Germany games, because I will be able to watch those on Magenta Sport. I believe that is also free and available to everyone. So you can go to Magenta Sport. It's in Germany. You just got to navigate your way around. We'll be able to see these teams play. I want to talk, though, about Georgia's chances of advancing. So the way this tournament works is the teams are split up into 4 groups of 6. The top 4 teams in those groups advance. So it's not going to be difficult to advance. Germany should have no problem advancing in this tournament. Georgia will have some trouble. Georgia is going to be a little bit tricky to get out of Group C. Georgia's got to play Greece, defending EuroBasket champion Spain, Italy, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. So it's their group is Spain, Italy, Greece, Cyprus, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's pretty much going to come down to Georgia and Bosnia and Herzegovina to come out of that group. I don't think Cyprus is going to make it out. They're the host country, though. So Georgia has a decent chance of getting out of group play. They've got some good guards. They got Sandro Mamakhalishvili. He hasn't reported with the team yet, I believe, because he's still working out with the Raptors and getting his contract settled with the Raptors. They've got some good players on Georgia. We've watched this team play a little bit. They got some spunky guards. They got some size. Shmerodini, I know I give him some. I'm a little lower on him because he's not. Goga Bitadze is a better player than Shmerodini, but Shmerodini can move. He can hit some people. He's a pretty solid veteran big. Georgia's gonna be competitive in this tournament. But they're on the borderline of getting out of group play in this tournament. So very important time right now for Georgia. And look, they played Israel. Israel's a pretty good team. They're going to be in EuroBasket as well. Another group. Estonia, who they'll play on Thursday, is I believe they're also in EuroBasket, but they're not expected to advance. So we'll get to see Georgia. And again, this is still the ramp up period. No one should be freaking out about results. Georgia lost by just 10 to Israel, but they were down 20. It was they kind of narrowed the gap there at the end. And again, like Goga Bitadze put up the kind of numbers that we're expecting him to put up for the Magic. So good sign for him. And obviously we're just ramping up, getting closer and closer to actual games. Like I mentioned, I've seen it confirmed in some places, but not confirmed in others. I don't have a time yet. I haven't been able to confirm the time, but Germany is set to play Slovenia on Friday and Sunday. I know the Sunday game is set. Friday, I have seen some sites report that it's going to happen, and like the German site does not have it on their schedule. So I'm pretty sure it's happening Friday, but this is kind of how things go right now. And not all the sites are as not all these websites are as cleanly organized as Team USA sites. So I kind of don't like that. Finding out where these friendlies are and who's playing in these friendlies has been a little bit of a chore for me, but that's my job. That's what I got to do. We'll have complete coverage of EuroBasket. We'll have complete coverage of what comes next for these players and break down what these players are doing throughout the next 2 months as we get ready for training camp and get ready for EuroBasket and get ready for a whole lot more. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun ways to download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find us as well on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out our Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day, go make the Locked On NBA podcast your next listen, because there's no offseason in the NBA. Offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I hope you all enjoyed the Locked On NBA squad show that stood in place for our show yesterday. Always fun to jump on with the NBA squad. We got hit a bunch of topics around the league, including some talk about the Magic over the course of that hour. We'll do some more squad shows here coming up throughout the summer as well. Like I said, I'm kind of in my summer mode, so I may take a few days off here during this quiet part of the off season. I am planning to do episodes the rest of the week. On our next episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to talk about the national TV problem. We're going to get more national TV games. why these games actually matter. We're going to get to that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, or on our next episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.